Good morning, comrade. You're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. This week, we are joined by a very special guest, Danyelle Christmas, who is running for city council in New Orleans. Danyelle, welcome to Good
Hi.
Morning Comrade. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And it's really been trying to get in touch with you for a little while. It's really nice
Really?
to
I
talk
know.
with you and just talk about how things are going, with your campaign. So first off, I guess just sort of, for the folks that are listening, would you mind just introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Danyelle Christmas. Of course, running for City Council District E. So people who don't know where that is, that's the Lower Ninth Ward and the New Orleans East. Little
Mhm.
fact: the Lower Ninth Ward actually received 93% of water after Katrina, and we have not gotten back since.
Mhm.
So the reason I got into this, world was because of my dad. So if you haven't heard my story, my dad was arrested when I was 4 months old, and I was in the backseat of the car, my sister and I, and he was sentenced to 10 years at death row. His trial lasted less than 15 days. His witness was belligerently drunk. They still somehow wrongfully convicted him of murder with no credible evidence. So once he was released back in 2004, he joined what's called the Innocence Project. But once he was released, they offered him a $10 check, so a dollar for every year, right?
Mhm.
After he was acquitted. So not only was I slapped in
Wait,
the
so
face,
$10 for every year he was
and
incarcerated.
a
So
dollar. I'm sorry, a dollar for every year. So
$10 for every year. And how long was he incarcerated for?
10 years.
So $10. Like here's a crisp
Here's a
$10
$10
bill
check.
or a check. Okay. Oh my gosh.
So
And
talk.
you,
Oh my God, yeah, the NOPD man, yeah.
yeah.
But peak corruption. But yeah, so he was sentenced to that. He got the check. He laughed in their face, of course. He ended up suing them, but he worked with a nonprofit called the Innocence Project. And so
Mhm.
when he joined, he brought me along pretty much. So we used to go to
Mhm.
these exhibits, these shows. I hear him speak and all that. And at first I was a kid, like, this is so boring. I could care less about this. But but then I got into, because I've always loved politics. But then
Mhm.
when I was always a humanitarian, I would say, an activist, not so much
Yeah,
a politician. But
of
then when
course.
he started talking to me about all of this, and it was just so unjust, but it was normalized, and
Mhm.
nobody, and it was almost like was being gaslit. Well, you
Mhm.
shouldn't feel that way. This is okay, and it happened to everyday people. And I realized I'm not the only one without a parent, because my grandparents raised me, and we all know how the state of Louisiana is. They're founded on grandparents raising their children because they profit off mass incarceration. So my grandparents raised me, and my grandfather went to work every single day, and I saw him go to work every day. But I missed out 10 years with my dad.
Mhm.
So when he got out, we went to these exhibits. And when I heard him talk, I'm like, bingo, this is what I'm gonna do. So initially, I wanted to be a pro bono lawyer and work with the Innocence Project. But as life has it, I felt like I couldn't make a change that way. I had to get in office to change legislation. So that's why I decided to run. And then more stuff fell into play. It was the fact that we looked the same way we looked almost 20 years ago, no change.
Mhm.
The city started to deteriorate. I ran on the basis of progressive workers,
Mhm.
mothers who've been failed because I've been failed by the system. And I won't keep my intro too long, but I
No,
ran,
no,
ran,
please. We have an hour. Let's go ahead. Take your
right?
time.
But I ran because in the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans East, we've been forgotten about so many times.
Mhm.
Each council we've had failed us, literally,
Mhm.
and it's a 4 to 8 year span. So we had just corruption after corruption after corruption, and we've been let down. We've had false promises, and it's the same thing. Politicians politicking, and I made up that term because you know how politicians talk. They'll wave their hand like this. They'll talk like a certain way, and it's like they took a politician's 101 class, and it's like, at what point are you authentic? Are you realistic? Are you relating to these people? Because you're not. And
Mhm.
we were just being so overlooked, and to the point where I had enough. I had enough because I had enough of the mom on the side of the street being failed. She has to walk in the street because there's no sidewalk. It's overgrown by black property, and then they're not holding these landholders accountable. How many
Mhm.
quota enforcement are you going to throw at them until they give the property back to the city? So she has to now, and I saw this every single day. This woman had walked with her son, and shout out to the woman who I was stalking,
Mhm.
but I saw her every day. So she walk in the street with her son every morning, like 6 a.m., 6 a.m. to like 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And we all know around a certain time it gets dark at that time, right? With daylight
Mhm.
savings hit. So this woman used to walk, and she still does to this day. She walks on the road because there's no sidewalk, and then the street where she walks is on Fats Domino, and the light didn't work for 2 years. So now we have an abundance of issues, right, happening at one time, right? If we unpack it as a black property, and we're holding a city accountable for that black property or that homeowner, right? We have a street light that doesn't work. she runs the risk of being hit by a car taking her son to school. And then let's also throw this in here. We all know the Lower Ninth Ward. If you're not familiar with it, the Lower Ninth Ward doesn't have a school. They only have one school, an elementary school. So now this woman has to walk her child to the bus stop where there's a black property, no sidewalks, no street lights, and then cars, because she can run the risk of being hit by a car. But she's doing it tirelessly because she's tired. But she still wakes up to take her son to the bus stop. And then now I have to get my son to this bus stop and go out of my district because you don't prioritize children in this district. And now there's no school here for my child to go to. And I don't want to put them in a school that's in my district because there's a low enrollment rate. Low enrollment rate means no resources, right? So do you see how it's a domino effect?
It's a spiral. It's a way so that, you know, once things become, you know, once that it's essentially an economic system that is designed to fail the people that live there.
And exactly what it is.
And it really, because of, I mean, I was a school teacher in Jefferson Parish for 8 years, and one of the things that we kept, you know, seeing over and over again is that schools in, you know, poorer areas ended up, you know, having less resources, and because they're funded by local property taxes, and then we're also these advanced studies academies, and it's obviously different in Orleans because it's all charter schools. It's different in Orleans because it's all charter schools, and you know, there's just kids going all over the city just to go to school. It's wild. Did we lose you, Danyelle? Oh boy. No, we lost her. She'll be right back. We'll be right back with Good Morning Comrade.
Can you hear me?
All right.
Sorry,
Yes,
my
I can.
sister called me like in the middle of it, so like it froze everything.
All right, we are back, and we have Danyelle, and I was just talking a little bit about, like, yeah, I was a teacher in Jefferson Parish for a number of years. I'm from St. Bernard Parish originally, and you know, just sort of seeing, especially in the Ninth Ward, I mean, it's been the victim of, not just that sort of lack of resources, but also, you know, the people that have lived there for multiple generations have had this sort of like onslaught of, look, these people aren't the villains of the world or anything like that, but there's an onslaught of gentrification that's taking place. Yes. That it's a forces issue, not a people issue. Right. And essentially a lot of the people that have lived in, you know, parts of the Ninth Ward, and it's not just there, but that's just the district that you represent, are being forced out of their neighborhoods and their homes and made to live outside of the city, which is also another huge problem.
I love that you brought that up because it's a huge issue. I believe it was 20 to 40,000 people left. And it's renters, by the way. These are not homeowners. Some are homeowners, but most of these are renters who don't also get acknowledged for some strange reason. But between 20,000 to 40,000 people have now left New Orleans since 2024. So that's a huge issue. So I'm happy you brought that up because it's unaffordable. There's no resources for them, and then we don't get catered to. So I'm happy that you brought that up, and congrats and kudos to you for being an educator, because that is a hard job to do. You know. That's real hard. It is, like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. I had to leave it though. Unfortunately, it was too hard for too long.
Yeah, see, I don't have the heart to do it. I write to be in legislation, but I don't have the heart, because then, you know, and here's some more issues. Teachers get, one, you don't get resources like you're supposed to. You don't get paid how you're supposed to. I honestly think if I was ever be president, which I doubt, but definitely running for governor sometime in the future. But I definitely think we need to raise that wage up to at least $200K a year, to be honest, for teachers. Because we teach the doctors, we teach the lawyers, we teach everybody. You wouldn't be anywhere without a teacher. It's how this is your fundamental. We're building your foundation of who you are. And granted, you know, you have some bad experiences with some teachers, but most of the time, educators are there for a reason, you know, and treat them with respect and pay them a livable wage in a safe working environment, you know.
And let me tell you something too. When you mentioned that there's like some teachers may have some issues or whatever, but really, like, that is something that is like way overemphasized in the like, especially the education reform circles that have just like, they want to just replace teachers, they want to attack teachers unions, and they want to make sure that, you know, essentially, you know, the public goods that we all, you know, pay for with our tax money essentially goes away. and gets replaced by like in New Orleans, it's all charter schools now. It's all privatized, and it's not a system that is designed for. I mean, like you mentioned that there's only one school in the Ninth Ward. Part of the reason they can do that is because they don't have neighborhood schools anymore. There's only one public school in the entire city, which is Leah Chase School, which just reopened up a year or two ago.
Well, no, we have one more. So my daughter, she actually attends a public school. She doesn't.
What school is that?
So she goes to New Harmony.
Oh, I didn't know that was a public school too. Okay, cool.
And I purposely did that on purpose, and nothing against charters, but I purposely did that because they're so overlooked and underfunded. You know, you can find gyms in public schools. There's a bunch of gyms. I was a part of the public school system. So people have this rhetoric behind it, and it's not real. It's not realistic, but that's what they do to keep products or keep the system and the resources for people away from people, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's just one of the things. So let's talk a little bit about. I did want to talk about one more thing, because you are seeing as well. Because I've done canvassing in the Ninth Ward for various, for and against various things. Certain developments that need to be stopped, or certain things, people for office or whatever that would have been good. And one of the things that I did notice when we were knocking doors out there was just the absolute. And maybe it's not the same as it was then as it is now, but there was just so many homes that were not people who, people didn't live there. It was Airbnbs and a lot of just sort of like short-term rentals. Do you want to talk about that a little bit as well? Because that seems to be a huge issue.
That is a huge issue. So the lower the Ninth Ward is worse because it's more gentrified. I'm not saying that, STRs are more for gentrified areas, but that areas heavily have a lot of STRs, which are short-term rentals, Airbnbs. That has a lot. That has not changed. Actually, that has amped up, to be honest. We have one Airbnb in the lower Ninth Ward. I think that's all you're gonna get is one for right now, because all the Black properties and economic development, and we don't look as good as the other districts. But that is a huge issue. So I actually spoke about this with Bob actually in Jackson on a podcast about STRs, because there's no plan right now, and honestly I don't know how to really go about it without affecting everybody else. So until we get an effective and solid plan. To smack my sister because she keeps calling me. But I called her. I was like, don't call me again. But no, I was so STRs. Honestly, I was just thinking of doing a blanket ban, because there's no way for us to regulate it just yet, to be honest, because I'm all for STRs. Jesus. Oh my goodness. I am so popular today. I don't know what's going on. I don't get this many phone calls. I'm so sorry. But so I didn't know how to regulate it, because some people do. It's a source of income from other people. Before it got popular, Airbnbs was to help, income. It was a supplemental income at one point, and now it became commercialized, profit, and it's lost its true culture behind it. It was for people to get away from the hotel market because it was price gouging, and now it's doing the exact same thing. But it's used for people who can't live in New Orleans and who can't afford their rent and other, necessities. So I was all for it, but there's no regulating it in an effective way. So until we're able to, regulate effectively, I would do a blanket ban, to be honest.
Which and it became something that not only had an effect on the sort of tourism or whatever of the city, which is less important, I think, than it really just sort of like sucked up a lot of housing units and had them essentially like taken up and replaced with these Airbnbs. So essentially, instead of, because it's more profitable, instead of renting to people who actually live here, they're renting it like it's a hotel or whatever, and making tons of money while, but finding this loophole of oh, it's an app, so it's a short-term rental. It's different than it is if you were like to actually be running. You're basically escaping a lot of taxes, and you're escaping a lot of other issues that would go along with it.
Capitalism.
I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but it just seems like they're doing just like the legal workaround on that. You know what I'm saying?
That's why they have an issue right now with the city. But yeah, it's just, and it takes away from the culture too, because now there's a property that could go to a family who needs it, actually needs it. But now because you're so, involved with profit over people, and you're buying up this low income house right here, and now you're going to rent it out as an Airbnb, and it just drives down the market value also, because we know whenever there's an Airbnb, a lot of tourists stay there. And then some, and it's not always the case with the crime, the lot, and the parties and all of that, but most of the time it's parties, and their neighborhood does not want that. There's one down the street from me. That's the only one that they have down the street from me. And I mean, there's a party every weekend. Someone was shot there. It was closed down for a little bit. Yeah, they were killed. It was closed down for a little bit. And I was sure it was going to be shut down like for good. It wasn't. It will open back up like in a month. Right. So that's a huge issue with that. And there's a stigma around it also, but it doesn't bring community together, to be honest. And we love tourists. Don't get me wrong. Not all tourists are bad, but it doesn't add any value to the, the community, and it drives down your property value, because we all know, one, we're in an insurance crisis as it is in the state of Louisiana, and it's unaffordable. Everything is unaffordable, right? So when you drop down my property value, what increases? My insurance, my mortgage, my homeowner's insurance, my rental insurance, my car insurance. All of that's unaffordable now. So we're not thinking about that, because it's a revolving door, So we're so involved in capitalism, profit over people. You're not taking into account of the actual people. Now, granted, if this was musicians who come here to play, I'm all for it. Families that come for a little bit, I'm all for it. But it's for profit. It's driven by profit over people companies, and it's not for us. It's not for the culture. And it doesn't do anything for us. Again, I'm all for supplemental income, but we haven't found a way to regulate it yet. So once we find a way to regulate it, I'm all for it. But until then, and people may not agree with me, I would do a blanket ban until we figure it out.
Yeah, and let's just use that as an opportunity to look over at your platform. I'm taking a look over here on your website, Danyelle for districte.com. Oh, let's pause for station ID real quick before we do that. This is Good Morning Comrade, WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. Jeff here on the show, joined by Danyelle Christmas. Danyelle is running for District E City Council in New Orleans.
Yes.
And so let's just get started. You have a component in your platform for regulating energy. Let's talk about that.
Oh, I love this topic. Let's talk about this. Okay, one, energy will not like me. I cannot stand energy. I had a
But they're one of the best cartoon villains in the entire city of New Orleans. It's incredible how goofy and maniacal. You just you can just sort of see the CEO just practicing his evil laugh or something like that.
Oh my goodness. So I'm so leftist, man. It's so funny. There's a Make Energy Pay campaign with DSA. So you got the little stickers, right? So the stickers have F Energy on it. I am sorry for people who are listening. So I had one on my bumper sticker. I had it on there all day. And I would see people staring at me. I'm like, why are y'all staring at me? And then I realized, I got that sticker on the back. I was like, I'm going to keep it. I ain't taking nothing off. And I drove it to my job with it. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm not removing it. So, but this topic, I love talking about it because, one, I hate energy. Because they are a for-profit company, and they're the only utility company. Now, most people don't know this, but the New Orleans City Council and the mayor's office is a home charter, right? So what that means is they have the right to regulate, and they own this utility company, right? So they have the right to regulate, and there's no other city in the state of Louisiana that can do that, but we can, but we choose not to. And granted, we have control over them, and we don't regulate them because they're in the back pockets of this company. Energy made $16.2 billion last year. 16.2. This is only Orleans residents alone. It's not Energy Arkansas, Louisiana. This is Orleans, right?
Just the city of New Orleans, because Entergy is throughout the state of Louisiana and other states, like you just mentioned. But in the city of New Orleans, they make how much money?
$16.2 billion.
Ay.
Right now, this is not on top of receiving grants from the state of Louisiana. First of all, billionaires should not exist. First of all, That's one thing. But secondly, government officials should not be giving over grants to a $1 billion company. Makes no sense, right? That's an issue right there. But then you have people that is in Congress, House reps, state, locally. They're taking money from this utility company. So when you take money from a utility company, the lines tends to get blurred on who you're actually
Yeah.
representing. You say you're representing me, but you're not. You're representing this company. And when we want regulation, you think you're going to get it with these politicians? No, because energy is paying them, right? There's actual sitting candidates right now as we speak, running and sitting, who have taken money from energy and said they have not. But then if you look at their financial records, they have. I won't say names because you can go look it up and you can find it yourself. But they've done that. So honestly, it's a for-profit company. So when we do that, it hurts us. So what I'm proposing is making it municipal. So meaning technically it's already municipal, but we need to make it even more that way because they're not regulating them. And once we start to regulate them, we can get somewhere, and we audit them as well. Because we all know. Well, I didn't know this at one point. I learned it, down my journey through this running my campaign. But technically, right? So technically, people across the state, United States, pay at least 3% for their utility bills. You want to guess how much we pay?
Oh gosh, 10%.
20%.
Okay, wow, I was way up.
23% actually. So
A
utility
quarter,
company.
a quarter of your income essentially goes to
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
its service. I'm sorry, but like I don't mean to interrupt you, but like energy service sucks. Like
Sucks
you will
ass,
have,
man. Can I curse on here? I'm sorry if I curse on. It sucks ass. It's
but
terrible.
like yeah, well, I'm gonna have to bleep that unfortunately, but like yeah, it's terrible because like you're sitting around in the city just a random regular day. It's not even hot outside. It's not even like whatever, and you just have a blackout. It would just
Yeah.
be just one of those sort of situations where you have no real reason for it, and if it happened, every once in a while, whatever, like that sucks,
Right.
but like whatever. But when it's happening constantly over and over again,
Yes. And they
there's an
have a
issue,
stupid.
and they're just
Right.
guaranteed to make as much money as they want anytime they want. They
Because it's
get
one.
they get funded from the city for any kind of like maintenance or growth projects that they do. That ends up being either a money pit or these like what natural gas plants that don't
Oh God.
support they don't come through when you need them. So it's just like this they have all of the preferential treatment you could possibly imagine in the world, and they don't even do the basics of what they offered to do.
Not at all. And then they'll say it was last year they said it was a balloon, it was the trees. I'm like, come on, y'all need to
Yeah,
stop
a
that.
balloon took out their entire energy grid. I forgot
Took the
about
whole
that.
grid out.
That's
Took the
so
whole grid
awesome.
out. It's like, come on now.
Yeah,
And at some point we have to hold. And I laugh, but I'm annoyed because you
yeah.
don't hold these people
Well, what else
accountable.
you gonna do? You got to laugh a little bit
You
because it's
gotta
so
laugh at it because we're
ridiculous.
so numb to it. And that's the problem. We're numb. We shouldn't be numb.
Mhm,
But that's what makes me so upset because we joke and we laugh it off. But what the choice do I got? I don't have no other option. You don't
mhm,
don't bring in competition, and you're not making it municipal. So what am I to do about it? But what really grinds my gears, what grinds my gears honestly is that they're in the pockets of energy, and
mhm.
we will never get change. And then not only that, they sold. This is my rant. Sorry.
Go for it.
They
Ran
sold.
away.
Thank you. They
That's
sold
why
their
you're
natural
here.
gas
That's
parts.
why I wanted to talk to you. I love the rants.
Thank you. But they sold their natural gas parts to Delta, right? And that's because they didn't want to be responsible. So at one point, Bob and I actually talked about this too. So they had there was an initiative. They had to go to zero emissions, right,
Mhm,
by a certain time. But since now I've sold my natural gas parts, I don't have to.
mhm.
I'm not responsible for it. So I can continue to have this, this dirty energy.
Exemption. Yeah. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Mhm,
So now, and then and I also want people, if anyone's listening, which they are, but I also want people to recognize, don't get blinded by the race, the circus of a race that we call right now
mhm,
this election,
mhm,
because the same city council people that are sitting and running for mayor all agreed to sell their natural gas parts to Delta
mhm,
overnight and didn't include us at all. So and it's not throwing shade to anybody, but when you vote strategically, because
mhm,
the reason your light bill is going up and it's more now is because that person running for mayor said,
mhm,
yes, let's do this. They can afford more bills on
mhm,
top of what they're already getting, and if not, and then energy shuts your power off
mhm,
in the middle of the heat. They don't care. When it's freezing cold, they don't care. And it's like, who's regulating these people? But when you sit down and think about it, my government is. My
mhm,
government is allowing me to live in poverty. They're
mhm,
allowing me to be unhoused. They're allowing me to not be able to afford anything,
mhm.
And now, when you sit down and think of it like that, it's like, no, it's not me. I'm not making myself in poverty. I'm not, because you don't want to, on the federal level, you don't want to pay me a livable wage, right? On the local level, you're not regulating these companies, these for-profit companies, when you know this place is unaffordable. Right. So when you think about poverty, don't think about people. When you see unhoused people, and I call them unhoused neighbors, I don't say homeless, because you don't. I live in a house. I'm not housed. I have a person. So our neighbors who don't have homes, that's not their fault. It's unaffordable.
Yeah. The cost of living. Yeah. The cost of living. They're essentially casualties of the cost of living crisis.
Yeah, because it goes hand in hand. Again, we have energy, we have the groceries prices that are now going up because of tariffs. So now and then, the minimum wage is still $7.25 since 2017.
Hasn't gone up. Hasn't gone up since
but
what? 2008 or
2017.
2005.
I think it's 2017.
Okay. It's been a long time.
Yeah, long time. So when you, and that's, oh my gosh, so I don't go my rant. But when you think about that, it's like y'all are setting me up. Like y'all are legit setting me up. There's no way this is okay. But because we allow it, it happens. And then another thing goes down to education, because city council, city government, state government, national government, they make it hard to get access to this information. They make it so hard to get access to this. And then we don't know how to vote. So I'm happy that we have these small groups like what you're doing, these nonprofits like Vote, DSA, Jane's Place, Renters' Rights. All of these people, they're on their platforms, they're sharing and even making posters in yard signs on how to vote, because we didn't know. And then they do it strategically with these amendments. They make it hard to understand. And so you're not aware of how to vote, So I'm happy that we have these platforms like you have right now to explain to voters on why you should vote strategically. Because if not, energy will continue to be energy. In 10 years, they're going to change their name and be somebody else, but it's still energy. Politicians are going to be politicians, still taking money from them. And we can't get change if we regulate these things and make it municipal, but we cannot get change if we continue to vote the same way. You hear me say this all the time. You have to dismantle the political machine, because if not, it's going to run the exact same. If you're wondering why, New Orleans looked the same way it looked 8 years ago, that's because we're voting the same people in. Same policies, because politicians are looking to climb the social ladder, the political ladder. They're not looking to, grow anything. And let's just be honest here. And when we talk about politicians, we say, oh, it's just politics. It should not be politics. It should be transparency and help govern people. That's why you got in office, was to govern and to help, Remember why you got in office. But because we've been so let down and we've been so numb to this, we've given up. So it's time that we just take our city back, and stop allowing these people in. You let people in who's a parent, who's a single mother, who knows what it's like to have to afford childcare, because you got to go to work. Because guess what? It's not free. And then I have a 4-year-old or have a 3-year-old who I now have to, on top of paying for an affordable rent, I now have to, there's no universal pre-K here. So now I have to go find childcare, right, to pay for this, because it's so unaffordable. And you guys don't offer me, universal pre-K. So now I have to work 10 times as hard to pay for this childcare. And now I have to pay my energy bill, pay my food, run the risk of getting hit about a black property because I can't see and I'm just inching out. I have a pothole here and I have to swerve and go in this other lane. We have cyclists who are being killed almost every day, every week, because they're failing us with infrastructure. Education system with the school, the prison, and pipeline system. They don't prioritize education. They don't prioritize parents. They don't prioritize children. They don't prioritize anybody but themselves. So if we just continue to vote the same way, it won't change. But yeah, so just honestly regulate energy, get rid of them, make them municipal. Put all utilities in one company. Surgeon Water Board needs to go under municipal, which it technically is, but it needs to go with energy and Surgeon Water Board. Make them as one utility bill,
and that's payable to the city, so it's not for profit, and so that people can it's actually for the people and not for the profits.
Exactly. And I love that you said that. It's for people before profit. People before profit. And once you start to think that in that manner, because everybody deserves to right for a livable wage, a safe environment, and equality of life. Everybody deserves that. And for when you take someone's rights away, their basic rights away, that's a problem. Because you're causing me to be this way. And I keep saying this, poverty is a result of government, not people. So we have to vote differently if we want change in our city. It's possible. Baltimore did it. It's so possible. We have to vote differently.
Yeah. You listen to Good Morning Comrade. This is WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. We're talking with Danyelle Christmas, who is running for City Council, District E. And just wanted to kind of move on our discussion to her economic development plan. So tell me a little bit about it. What are your plans for moving forward with economic development in a way that is just and for the people again?
Yeah, so I love the topic too, because economic development, there's so many options for economic development. And when it comes to the lower ninth ward, there's so many black properties, so many. And the New Orleans East as well. So I'm looking to bring outside people in, to be honest. I'm outside and home people. So when I say outside people, outside developers, none who are in the back pockets of these council members, because let's talk about that also. Because when you look at the root of economic development and why it has not happened, we're looking at the root of corruption. So if it hasn't happened yet, then sometimes they're in the back pockets of the developer. So we look at Bayou Phoenix, right? Are you familiar with Bayou Phoenix?
For the benefit of our audience, please explain.
So Bayou Phoenix is supposed to be a proposed building. What are they doing? Like a mall or something like that. They're doing something. It's like an economic development, but it's a proposed project that Council Member Oliver Thomas is doing. Bayou Phoenix. It doesn't propose any economic development to the children, to our people. It doesn't. I didn't feel like it would help us. But the developer, he knows it hasn't happened yet. Money. But he knows the developer. But granted, he's been in office for 4 years. Nothing has moved on this. Right? Same thing with my former councilwoman, Cindy Wynn, with the Lincoln Beach. That was started years ago. Nothing has moved since then. But when we talk about economic development, we have to look at and vet these people, because we need to vet them. Are you in a relationship to this person? If you have a relationship with this person, you cannot build this, because now it's an underhanded deal. Let's go to Jeff Landry and that $16.2 million project they had did for the encampment suite, right? Only good for 2 months, but the person who had built that encampment, and I call it a concentration camp, that's what it is, who built that encampment, they donated to his campaign.
Sure.
He knows them.
Right? You donate. It's like old time corruption. You donate to the campaign and you get the contract.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. Developer got money pocketed to him, millions of dollars. He had an encampment for 2 months for Super Bowl. That was it. But you see how that worked? It's always a backhanded deal.
Locking up poor people for being poor too.
We're going to talk about that too. You cannot criminalize people for unaffordability, but
in a place that is so like incredibly intentionally unaffordable.
And I love that you said this, intentionally unaffordable. I love that you said that, because it is. But yeah, so he got money out of that deal, and they're doing the same thing in the city council. There was a close friend of mine told me about this. There was a proposed development that was supposed to happen in the East. It did not happen. And it had a bunch of stuff. It had economic development for the children. It had classes. It was going to give vouchers to small businesses. It was going to work trading and teaching them skills. And it didn't happen. Did not happen. But guess who bought the building? Goodwill. Goodwill.
Goodwill.
So Goodwill purchased the building.
Those could be shops now.
Exactly. So, and then there was so many, and it was going to be a huge project. It was going to bring, economic growth and money to the community, jobs, and it was just going to make it so beautiful. And it was going to take up a bunch of acres. So the black properties next to Goodwill would have had economic development, small businesses and things like that, right? But they said no. Instead, they gave it to Goodwill. I don't know why, but that's a prime example of poverty is an option. Economic development is an option, because if that's not an issue. Economic development is not an issue in the place you want it to be. So why did you overlook the East to put that there, right? Because you don't care. There are so many black properties there, down here, and in the East. But my plan is to work with small businesses. So to get down to the nitty gritty, we have a $1.8 billion budget. Right? So each city council member gets an amount of money that they can give to a small business. So I plan on creating a task force and creating a money that goes towards small businesses. I'm going to allow you to open up a small business, but you're going to get an incentive. But what I want you to do is, it's going to be trades involved with the schools. Allow these students to get in here and see what they like, economic development, financial literacy, teaching them something, trading. If it's a grass cutting company, you have a grass cutting company now. Even if it's mobile or it's a shop, you now have a business. But now you need to work with these students and teach them economic development, growth, financial literacy, right?
Skills.
Teaching them skills, exactly. Trading skills. So trades. So that was my plan to do that, because there's a food desert right now here in the lower 9. So there's no grocery store. There's one that just opened. Exactly.
You need to either go to Mid City or Chalmette if you want to go to the grocery store. Arabi, really.
Bingo. So you now have to go to Chalmette to shop at Walmart. Why is there not any here? Why? So now I have to go down here because you don't prioritize me. So what I plan on doing is creating small mom and pop shops, grocery stores. Because again, this goes back into the community. We're recycling money back in. If I have a child who's and this also goes back to youth programs as well, because we all know children's mind isn't developed until they're 25, right? That frontal lobe isn't developed yet. And crime usually takes place between the age of 12 and 19. That's the bulk of the crime. So we want to get kids off of the streets and stop them before they stray off the path. Give them something to do, right? So if we're going to teach you hard work, financial literacy, trades, stuff like that, see what you like, right? So creating incentives for these small businesses and say, hey, you need to work with the schools and get kids involved. But if you don't want to work with the schools, allow a child to get a job, a 16-year-old or higher, right? Let them get a job. Now they're working.
It's important as well. I don't mean to interrupt you, but like jobs that like jobs that also like obviously like no disrespect to people that work in fast food or grocery stores or whatever, like those jobs should be paid more. However, I think there is space in here also for opportunity for kids to learn how to be an electrician, how to be a plumber, how to be a carpenter, like and that's really a space where those are highly dense union jobs that have really good pay and good retirement, good benefits, and the things that would actually make life better for folks. And having a pipeline from these communities and these schools into these sort of like those aren't the only jobs obviously that are really good, but those are ones that are sort of traditionally traditionally like the trades and the skills that we're discussing here. Is that something that would really benefit a community?
I love that you said that because that is exactly what my platform is. That's exactly what it is. Trade, skills, working with businesses, working with schools, because everybody can't go to college. And I hate this rhetoric that we've now fallen to believe everybody has to go to college. Because at one point, college was free, right? College was free. So now, sure, I'll go if it's free. But college is not for everybody. So not to go off on my rant because I'm going to get back to economic development in a second. But when I was in high school, I had this teacher. He was a great guy. He was a white dude, by the way. Like, shout out to this white dude who was teaching this black kid a bunch of eye-opening stuff. Like, this man gave me, and I was already well aware, but this man gave me a book on the background of how policing was started, right? He gave me Malcolm X books. He gave me so much stuff that I had not known because there is a system in our school that they whitewash history. And here's this one teacher in my predominantly black school give me a book. He said, I believe in you. I trust you. Read this. And from that moment on, I was like, I always knew, but that moment on, I was like, he will ever hold a place in my heart. I do not remember his name, but he will hold a place in my heart because teachers do touch people. And he touched me so well that it sticks with me. And I had learned something that I didn't know. Black history didn't teach me this. This white dude taught me this, right? And when he was my homeroom teacher, he wasn't even my teacher. He was my homeroom teacher, so I didn't have to take any class from him. But it just shows you in that short amount of time what we had talked about, and it was like 15 minutes before class started. It was deep enough to give me this book and teach me this stuff, right? And I love that. Huh?
Let me ask you, what school did you go to?
Warren Easton.
Oh my goodness!
What?
No, I'm just messing around. I went to I'm just kidding. I went to Chalmette High, so
yawn.
Y'all always had a really great band. Y'all had a really great football team. I have a lot of respect for Warren Easton.
See, now I like you again. Now,
and one of the guys I used to work with, actually, back in the restaurants, he was like, even though he was like in his 20s or something, he was still wearing his Warren Easton stuff.
Listen, man, I'm telling. I found my Warren
Easton had their
jersey.
Pride,
bro. I found my Warren Easton jersey in my closet. I was like, bet I'm wearing this. Mine just like it's I couldn't fit it. I was like, I'm gonna wear this. But it was that teacher who just like. He taught me that, and if we give these kids an opportunity to meet someone that teaches them that, they can stray off a path. Because at one point I was going to go to jail at one point because my dad wasn't around, and then my grandparents, they did what they could, but I always felt as if I was missing something, and teachers helped me ground me. My aunt ground me, my grandmother ground me as well. But it wasn't until I became a teenager when I started forming my own brain, I learned who I was, and it was because of that teacher. Right. So if we give these children an opportunity to meet somebody like that, no telling what they can do. And they can get off the path, to crime. Because there's nothing for them to do. And this goes back to my economic development. Give them something to do. And it don't always have to work, but it teaches you a trade because college is not for everybody. And the quote I was saying was, I told him, I said, because we're talking about standardized testing. I'm not for standardized testing. I'm sorry. Because it doesn't, it's not for everybody. People don't test well. So if you, and I use this quote often, if you test an elephant on how well he can climb a tree, what is he going to get?
It's not going to do so good.
He's going to fail. But if you test a tiger on how well they climb a tree, they're going to ace it. That's because we thrive in different areas. Everybody's different. So I'm making them a number. So when we start looking at kids, it's not a number instead, because what they look at them as, there's a reason why more juvenile detention centers are being built, more prisons are being built than schools, programming, and funding, because they're prioritizing jail. They're prioritizing that because they think that that's what we're going to do. If you look at what Jeff Landry said, I don't know if you heard it back in March. Remember that vote for on, vote no on all four? He was caught on mic saying, "Wow, there's he's not expecting a lot of voter turnout," and guess what happened?
He relies on that.
A huge voter turnout, right? But they're expecting us to fail, and that's no different with the children in economic development. So it goes hand in hand. All of this goes hand in hand. It's a revolving door. Teaching them trade, teaching them skills, small businesses, allowing them to learn financial literacy, entrepreneurship, how to manage money. It goes hand in hand. And again, it's money back into the community, because now it's recycling effect. Now I'm giving you money, I'm paying you, but you're spending it back in my store, right? And the people who live here are going to come to this store. It's
the virtuous cycle as opposed to the vicious cycle that you mentioned earlier.
I love that. You should be a politician. I love it. But but that's exactly what it is. And it's a recycling effect. Money goes back into the community, and it creates a quality of life, because now I have these businesses sitting here instead of blight properties. And again, we offer, what is it, a landscaping company? What are they going to do? Cut the blight properties. See what I'm saying? So what I say is hire city workers. I mean, everyday people, and make them city workers. All of this is possible. I promise you, it's all possible. We just have to pick the right people to do it, So, yeah.
And again, city workers, that's I believe union work now too, because I'm not exactly sure the status of the contract with the city workers. That's been approved now, right?
I have no clue. I haven't been watching that. I've been watching the nurses strike, to be honest. I've been watching that.
Oh, the nurses, yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, I've been watching more so that. The city workers, I haven't heard too much rumble around that, to be honest. And it's probably on purpose, to be honest. But I haven't heard too much, rumble with that. But I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, they were fighting for it for years. I know there was proposals. I wasn't exactly sure whether or not they had actually agreed to the contract and voted on it yet. But yeah, it's really really important, obviously, that those folks have their agreement with the city in stone and in black and white, because without a contract, it doesn't mean very much.
So sorry. Everybody's going on Do Not Disturb. Everybody's on Do Not Disturb.
Oh, we are joined. You're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. We are joined by the extremely popular today, Danyelle Christmas, who is running for.
Nobody cares about me. I don't know why they don't care about me today.
Danyelle is running for city council in New Orleans, District E. I did want to circle forward to I guess the quality of life is obviously sort of the filling potholes, get the streetlights working. We talked about that already. But I really do want to talk about sort of, who has shown support for the campaign, who's lined up behind you, who have you been working with, and how is that sort of going,
Yeah, I love this topic. So I had got involved through Run for Something, like I mentioned earlier, and Run for Something put me in touch with Bob Morrell, who had ran for District A years ago.
Guest on our show 2 weeks ago.
Love him. He's like my brother from another mother. But I got in touch with Bob, and when I talked to Bob, he kind of clarified a lot of stuff for me, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I'm like, I'm going to run for office. All I know is I'm going to run. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. Right. So Bob set me down. We had a Zoom call. He was like, this is how you do it. Let me know if you need help with anything. And I mean, this dude, I would text him something, and he'd be like, within 2 minutes, to the point, like, you're overwhelming me. I'm going to respond back in like a day. Because he was so quick with it. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Need to cool off a little bit. Let's calm down.
Right. And I was like, I'm overstimulated. I can't respond to you. But he was just so quick with it because he had, I mean, he ran his numbers himself. He did everything himself, and it motivated me. But he was my biggest supporter, and he said, "Hey, come to DSA, right?" I'm like, mind you, before Bob, I had no clue what DSA was. So when I got to DSA meeting, they say, "Well, Danielle's a new member," or da da da. And when I walked in, man, these was a bunch of white people. I didn't see no black people. I was like, who the heck? How you gonna invite me here? I don't see none of my people here. How you gonna invite me here? So, but when we sat down, and I got rid of my ignorance also, because you think you can't really, we can be cool, we can be friends, but you can never really understand me, right? Because of our different walks of life and what you go through and what I go through, because there is a such thing as white privilege. But when we sat down and we talked about universal health care, reproductive rights, universal transit, universal education, the right to do whatever we want, and it's centered around for the people, right? And I had so much in common with them, and I love them ever since then. And I have now made forever friendships. Um, Gabby Barrow, she's one of my biggest supporters. She ran for school board.
Love Gabby.
Yes, I love her so much. I don't know I can love such a small person, but I do.
A lot of love in that. A lot of love in that little lady, right?
It is so much love, and she called herself my campaign doula, right? So I call her my yes, right. So I call her my pro bono campaign doula because she's been amazing. Lauren
Yeah.
Jewett, amazing.
Our
Jewett.
old pal Lauren Jewett.
Yes, have you met Lauren? I love
Oh,
her.
I've known Lauren for years. She's been the guest
Yeah.
in the show like 5 times.
I see. She is like, I love her so much because she taught me so much. She was been my biggest supporters. Jack from DSA, he's running Pastor Man's
No, Jack.
campaign. I've met Devin Davis. He ran for Congress last year. He's over the voters organized to educate. He's one of the organizers. Well, have you heard of Vote?
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very familiar.
Right. So you know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, they work with formerly incarcerated, and they help get them
Absolutely.
information and get them in office. And on the basis of just what my dad went through, I love Devin for that. But I met Nziki. I love her to death. Um, who else? It was so many people. I mean, so many people. And to this day, I ran this race and I didn't know what to expect. And I found out, and I posted this, and I have no problem saying this again.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats tend to hide behind the party affiliation that they're for you, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they are just as stuck up as Republicans sometimes because they don't want change. They don't want change. They're not telling me, they're not saying, drag queens shut up at school. Republicans are, but
Yeah.
they're to the point to where some rights are restricted and they don't want progressive change.
Yeah. And
But
and
yeah,
and 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 they'll also like very often when and I'm sorry, like I don't mean like I'm just agreeing with you here basically, but I would just put kind of a fine point on that. One of
yeah,
the things that keeps happening is like every time they lose an election because they don't stand for anything or anybody or anything like that, when they lose an election, it's like, you know what the problem is? We're trying to represent the people too much. We're trying too hard to actually bring forward things like Medicare for all, or people are complaining too
right,
loudly that like people are getting like brutalized by police or whatever, and that's the problem, not the fact that we don't offer anything up to anybody. It's ridiculous,
exactly.
and it's just this sort of like never ending, like the answer to all of their questions is we're just not terrible enough.
Exactly. This is
Mm-hmm.
I'm the lesser evil of the two,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And this is what it is, and this is why I said Democrats are different from Democratic socialists.
Mm-hmm.
Socialists are more of the leftists, and when we
Mm-hmm.
hear this term leftist, people have made this what it's something it's not. But all this means is we're for progressive change. That is
Mm-hmm.
it. We're for universal health care, universal transit. We're for reproductive rights. We're for affordable housing, clean energy. We're for all of this. We're for the right to love anybody you want to love. Right. We're for all of
For
that.
people over profit, people
Ex-
over people over hate.
exactly. We one unified, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said this before. If if we're not all free, then none of us are free,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that goes with anything. So Democrats, like I said, hide behind the party affiliation, and they say they're for you when they're not for you, right? So we have to get from behind that and vote progressive people in,
Mm-hmm.
And I had this woman, bless her heart. I was at the op deck endorsement. She was so sweet. And I'm not going to keep using race. I don't want to use race, but it's
Yeah.
just shocking me because this older white lady, and she was like, "F them, you got this, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say the curse word, but she was like, "F them, you got this." She was like, because the Democratic Party has decided who they wanted, right? And I'm being completely candid. They want Jason Hughes in there. That's the reason why he's gotten all these endorsements. If you look at it, he's got major Democratic endorsements because they want him in office. They don't want progressive change. I'm not saying Jason won't be progressive because he has a good track record, but he's taking money from energy. So whenever we have a council member taking money from a utility company, I tend to rethink who you are,
Well,
and I
side
can't
eye,
trust you.
yeah.
Exactly, I can't trust you. So the Democratic Party want that particular candidate, and I've gotten so much support from people who are in the Democratic Party. A lot of people, a lot of older people too, and I was shocked about it with a lot of older people because sometimes older people don't want change, but they do. They want progressive change because they know the state that we're in. So I've gotten support from so many people who I would have never thought I've gotten support from, and it's just so humbling and it's amazing. I've gotten support from young people, older people, people who different walks of life than I have. And it has just been amazing. Run for something, lead locally, step up, vote, DSA, all these people in this realm. And I've gotten support from everyday residents, a lot of people in this realm. And I love it so much because it's a humbling effect because we all want the same thing at the end of the day. And I love that. So I got a lot of support. Mind you, I may not be who you want, what the Democratic Party wants. But I've gotten compliments to keep going. Because I've been told, don't worry about endorsements. Don't worry about it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. But you just keep going.
I will put it like this in a certain way too. Like if somebody, and this might sound a little bit rude, but I don't know, if the Democratic establishment doesn't want somebody to be in office or whatever, that's a plus.
Right?
Like,
Because they didn't want
sorry.
Madani in office. They didn't want
Yeah.
Madani in office.
Yeah.
So,
In New
and
York.
I
Yeah.
love being underdogs. I love being an underdog because I'm not I'm not who you want me to be. I've never been who anybody wanted me to be. I'm going to be authentically myself. And I've always been for basic human rights because I've always been for rights for, African Americans. Any religion, you be whatever religion you want to be. It does not matter. I've been rights for the LGBTQ plus community. Love who you want to love. Practice what you want to do. Because last time, like I said before, drag queens not shooting up schools, right? They're not
That's
doing
what
that.
anything, anybody. They're reading the children in libraries or something like that. Like they're not hurting nobody.
They ain't hurt nobody. They ain't hurt nobody. You banning these books teaching what the actual history of the United States was because you don't want the history being shown, right? I'm not going to go on my tangent, but it's stuff like that where I've always been who I've been authentically, and I've challenged. I said this on another forum. Like I was in sixth, I was in fifth grade, and my history teacher was like, "Man discovered the world." I said, "Who's man?" I said, "Women did too, right?" He was like, "Human, right?" He said, "Human, Danyelle, human." I said, "Oh, I was just checking because we
Yeah.
here too,
Make
right? We here
sure
too."
you got
So
them.
I'm like, no, but I've always been a leftist. I've always been, a progressive because again, if one is free and not all, we're not free. We're free
Yeah.
until everybody's free. So
Yeah.
it's been a huge humbling experience. I love it. I've made experience connections. I'm going to continue to go far. If I don't win this election, then that's okay. If I don't win, I'm going to run for probably state rep. I'm not quitting until I get in office to change legislation. And whatever case that may be, if I start a nonprofit or a coalition, I'm going to still speak up at forums. I'm going to still talk at support meetings. I'm going to still talk in front of city council. I'm still going to go on my strikes. I'm still going to go to a protest. That's always been me. It will continue to be me. So yeah.
There you go. Warrior for the cause, not just for this election, right?
Yes. Yes. Oh, I had my daughters at a protest on Monday. I was like, proud mom right now. Sure. First out of many protests.
You got to look, that's one of those kid things you have, like the picket pictures for your kids when they're like little. It's like you can have that forever. You know what I mean?
Yes. We
I
need
think
some
it was,
photos.
we mentioned Gabby earlier. It was just like really cool when the nurses were out on strike a few months ago. When it was on her Instagram, so I feel okay sharing this, but like it was a really adorable picture of her pushing like the baby stroller at the picket line. I'm just like, that is so cool.
Louis goes everywhere with her, and I love
Yeah.
it. I love it because my girls go everywhere with me because they're good friends now, and I love it because it's like I need you to see yourself in this. Because I need you to see yourself in this light because
Yeah.
this will be you one day, and I want you to know it's okay to protest
Yeah.
inequality and protest, a fair wage. It's okay to do that because if we do, I'm creating progressive people,
There
and
you
I'm
go.
creating good humans. So if I can do that, good humans in office, right?
And you're giving them, giving your kids, the opportunity to experience like things that not everybody does, or not, not everybody brings their children to picket lines to get involved with these kinds of things that are super important. I was at a I work as a union organizer now, and I was at an action that we did, and this was a couple of years ago, but seeing like one of the workers' daughter essentially walking around, with a megaphone leading the chant. I'm just like, this is so cool. Like, this
My
is what
daughter, I love that you're a union organizer, because I love unions. Because I say that this because although we can't increase wages on a local level, we can teach them how to unionize and they can fight for their wages. So I'm all for that. But my daughters were at the protest on Monday I was talking about, and it was a chant, and they learned the chant and they were chanting. I was like, I didn't teach them; they heard it and they repeated it. I was like, I am so proud of you.
Let's go. Let's
Mhm.
go. Well, let's leave it there. Anything you want to say? Where can people find you? Where can people find information about your campaign? And how can people get information about what you're doing?
Yes, so Instagram is the best way to find me. That's what my biggest platform is. TikTok, I am quote unquote old, apparently, to my 60-year-old, so I'm not good with my TikTok. But
You and me both.
right, so Instagram is the best place to find me, and my website. So I have a form of that if you want to volunteer. It's countdown. We're less than 2 weeks away from the election, so boots on the ground. We are canvassing. That's where you can find me. I just want to leave everybody with this: vote effectively. It doesn't have to be for me, but I just want you to look at a platform, and whatever you align with is how you vote. Not with with facial recognition, with name recognition, or who sign you've seen the most. I want you to do your homework, because if we don't do our homework, we're going to be stuck how we were stuck 8 years ago, 20 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. No change. So just vote effectively.
As a former school teacher, I can get along. I can get along with that message of do your homework.
Do your homework.
Well,
I
thank you
never
so
do.
much, Danyelle Christmas, for joining us. Really do want to wish you good luck. And obviously, anyone who is listening, possibly from one of the other campaigns, if you want to join us on the show, you're welcome to do so as well. Just get in contact with WHIV. But yeah, really a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. You as well.
And look forward to talking to you more in the future. And I wish you the best of luck.
Of course. Thank you.
Of
Bye.
course. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. This has been Good Morning Comrade. This is WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3.